They were murdered while praying. Instead of being ashamed, their enemies danced in the streets. And after that grisly terrorist attack on a synagogue in Jerusalem yesterday that killed 5 Jews, then in the bloody aftermath, Palestinians passed out candy to celebrate. And Hamas called it a heroic act.
Unbelievable. Now, many Israelis warn they're in more danger than ever anywhere in their own country, and the government is stepping up security against any future attacks. Chris Mitchell brings us the story.
The gruesome attack during early morning prayers rocked the nation.
We are in the midst of a terrorist assault focused on Jerusalem.
After the attack, Israel's public security minister announced he'd make it easier for Israelis to carry weapons for self-defense. It's designed to help Israelis protect themselves and also cope with the growing fear that an attack could happen anytime, anywhere.
This is my life. I live here. I can't think about it a lot because it'll just stop me from going places, so I'm trying to put it behind, sort of.
The Jewish people have been going through these type of things for thousands of years already, and our only real choice is to fight the darkness with light and choose life.
The 2 terrorists were from Jabal Mukabir, an eastern Jerusalem neighborhood that gave them access to Israeli social services, the entire city and country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the terrorists were full of deep hatred and incitement against the Jewish people and the Jewish state. But he warned Israelis against taking the law into their own hands.
We're in a lengthy war against abhorrent terrorism, which did not start today. Terrorism has followed us through all the years of the Zionist enterprise. We have always withstood it, and we will do so this time as well.
Following the attack, the Palestinian Authority issued contradictory messages. Some analysts believe Secretary of State John Kerry pushed PA President Mahmoud Abbas into condemning the attack. His advisor, Sultan Abu al-Anain, praised the attack as a heroic operation. And his political party, Fatah, announced they would hand out candy in celebration of the Jerusalem operation. It was the worst terror attack in Jerusalem since 2008. 4 rabbis were killed, 3 of them dual American Israeli citizens. A policeman died later from wounds sustained in the gun battle with the terrorists. Yitzhak Hesching was injured in the attack.
Everyone, everywhere is in danger, not just in Jerusalem, but everywhere. I think that what is happening is a very crazy situation.
President Obama condemned the attack and said it was a tragedy for both the U.S. and Israel. Despite what many see as Palestinian incitement, he said the U.S. wanted to help bring peace.
The United States wants to work with all parties involved to make that a reality and to isolate the kinds of extremists that are bringing about this terrible carnage.
In the meantime, Netanyahu said Israel would step up law enforcement and stiffer punishments for those who incite and increase security on the streets of Jerusalem. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Folks, just think, Washington, D.C. You go to work in Washington, D.C., you sit on a bus, and beside you is a fellow citizen who turns around and takes a meat cleaver and hits you in the head with it, or takes a knife and stabs you in the chest, gets off the bus, and suddenly people in Washington are dancing because of that act. Can you imagine that happening here? You say, no, that's too horrible to even contemplate. Well, of course it is. But that's what happens when these Palestinians and these Muslim extremists go at it. They think it's an act of heroism to kill an innocent civilian who is praying. They think that's an act of courage. There's no courage to it. Well, here at home, I'm not at all surprised that the Senate didn't, well, it was a strange vote. It was 59-41, which should be more than enough to pass any measure. But this has to do about invoking cloture under the arcane Senate rules. So the battle for the Keystone is far from over. As soon as the Republicans take control, they'll have more than enough votes with a few Democrats to pass that measure and override a presidential veto. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's Ephraim.
Pat, Senate Democrats defeated the pipeline measure, as you said, by just one vote. But incoming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is making it clear the bill will be at the top of the new Republican majority's agenda come next year.
On this vote, the yeas are 59, the nays are 41. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill is not passed.
In a narrow vote, the Democratic-controlled Senate defeated the legislation on the Keystone XL pipeline. It came just one vote short of the 60 needed to clear the House-passed measure. A big blow to Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu, who needed to prove she can bring the oil to her home state before a runoff election next month. She's up against Republican Bill Cassidy, who sponsored a similar bill that passed the House last week.
The main reason is it will signal a great sign that America understands that energy independence for our nation is possible for the first time ever. And it's a shame that this Congress has not delivered more in the last 5 or 6 years for the middle class. We say we try. I'm not sure we're trying hard enough.
The project would move oil from Canada into the United States and eventually to the Gulf Coast. Supporters say it would create jobs and ease American dependence on oil from the Middle East. But critics argue the drilling would be harmful to the environment and that much of the Canadian crude would be exported with little or no benefit for America. All 45 Republicans supported the legislation. Only 14 of 55 Democrats and independents joined them. The Obama administration and Senate Democrats have blocked a vote on the $5.4 billion pipeline for years. But with their new Senate majority, Republicans promise to bring the issue up for a vote again next year.
Keystone XL is just common sense. It's a shovel-ready jobs project that would help thousands of Americans find work. It would increase our supply of North American energy, and it would do all that with minimal net climate impact.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Outgoing Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is urging President Obama to, quote, go big on his upcoming executive order on illegal immigrants. The president is expected to take action soon, allowing up to 5 million illegals to avoid being deported. But Republican Bob Goodlatte, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, calls the president's action, quote, one of the biggest executive power grabs in history. Writing in the Wall Street Journal, he warns the president is moving toward a constitutional crisis and that by poisoning the atmosphere in Washington, the president is damaging any chance of real immigration reform. And Pat, I believe I heard you say this is nothing more than a setup.
Well, it is. There's no question about it. I just wonder what in the world. Harry Reid is a sneaky sort of individual, and he's a master of behind-the-scenes manipulation, but he has dominated the Senate for the years he's been majority leader. He has refused to allow votes time and time and time again on measures that have been passed the House. And the reason is he's been trying to shield people from any accountability so they wouldn't have to take votes on controversial issues. Well, he's losing his power in another few weeks. And so when that happens, things are going to change. But he tells the president to go big on breaking the constitutional power. The Constitution says the president is supposed to faithfully execute the laws. The Constitution says Congress is supposed to make the laws. The president is not supposed to make the laws. But somehow Obama thinks that he can make them on his own. He said, I've got a pen, I'm going to veto, and I also have the power of executive orders. It grieves me to see somebody who is completely out of control and defies the obvious will of the American people on these various issues. It is just incredible because it's a political grab, and you wonder, what are they playing for? But I said yesterday and the day before that there's no question it's a setup on this immigration thing. It's a setup to trap the Republicans that they're making some extreme move or to build a constitutional crisis where it looked like they have shut the government down. We can't have that happen. So they've got to take a very cautious approach to how they stop the president. But they can shut him down on a number of other ways, and they're going to have to do it. Congress has got to assert its constitutional authority. Ephraim?
Pat, the national debate over teaching history to our children heats up in Texas this week, where the state school board will vote on which textbooks to use. And as Heather Sells reports, it's a decision that could affect students across the country.
Texas School Board Chair Barbara Cargill sits at the center of a debate that will shape how students view the United States and the world. She is fighting for a conservative, positive view of the country that emphasizes our heroes.
I think sometimes our students tend to take for granted the freedom that we have.
She wants pages like this that focus on the risks the Allies took in World War II, landing at Omaha Beach, to look like this.
We need to teach about America, warts and all, but not just the warts.
If Cargill and her forces win, they'll also favor textbooks that emphasize a Judeo-Christian influence on the founding of our country. They want biblical figures like Moses mentioned. They also want more accurate information on Islam.
In one of the textbooks, the excerpt says that jihad means struggle. And I think our students need to learn that jihad means warfare to establish religion.
Groups like the Texas Freedom Network prefer a more liberal view of the country, our founding, and Islam. They say conservatives exaggerate Christian influence and downplay mainstream concepts like climate change. For both sides, it's a fight worth having. Texas is the second largest textbook market in the U.S.
Not only will this debate affect some 5 million school children here in Texas, it stands to affect millions more across the country as national publishers conform to Lone Star standards.
At the end of the day, however, Texas parents can have the final say thanks to a new state law giving local school boards the power to buy whatever books they want. It's why Roy White founded Truth in Texas Textbooks, made up of scores of trained volunteer reviewers.
The end result is to provide kind of an Angie's List rating system for that family out in Midland or down in Corpus. We hope other states will follow the protocols, follow the procedures, go through the training, set their own, and then begin to add to this.
Such a rating system could save parents time and point out the omissions, biases, and half-truths that can easily slip into our kids' books. Reporting in Dallas, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Half the nation is waking up in snow this morning. The Arctic blast making its way through the Midwest and New England has dumped massive snowfalls in some areas. Buffalo, New York is digging out of more than 5 feet of snow, and it could go to 6 feet today, with another lake effect storm expected Thursday.
We are having some difficulty in obtaining enough tow trucks to help clean the roads of cars that are abandoned.
It's horrible. It's just backbreaking. The snowblower doesn't even do anything.
The whiteout conditions buried cars and stranded drivers. Meanwhile, freezing or below normal temperatures have hit all 50 states. Across the Great Lakes, millions are buried in snow, and Pat, forecasters say more records will be shattered today.
Thank you. Hey, I'm 6'1". How tall are you?
Well, 5'5.5".
All right.
Barefoot, but right now probably like 5'9".
All right, 5'9". Okay. You would be under the snowbank in Buffalo. Just think of that. I mean, just think that we both would. I mean, the snow would be right up to my brow. We're talking about 6 feet of snow coming off of that lake in Buffalo. Can you imagine? 6 feet.
Snowblower wasn't even working.
Of course, the snowblower. I mean, you know, the shovel. You know, don't try to shovel out. I mean, people are going to be stuck in their houses. How are you going to get out of your house? That thing is above the door in most houses.
And then 27 degrees here today in Virginia. It's the first time we've been in.
Nothing. That's a picnic. I've been in -20 in Duluth, Minnesota, and didn't feel it. You know, it depends on where you are, and cold doesn't really get to you if it's not.
If it's a wet cold, it feels so much colder.
I tell you, 6 feet of snow will get to me. I don't care where it is.
Man, I hope they have some food and some provisions.
Well, they'd better. But I mean, that means that the power is going to be out. It's going to be tough. Imagine in a house you can't open the doors.
I can't imagine.
You open the windows and the snow comes in. Just Just think of it.
I lived in Michigan when I was little, and I remember walking to the bus stop. Of course, I was little. But I remember the snow being up to my waist. Then
the snow would be above your head right now. Okay.
The battle over the Pledge of Allegiance went to a New Jersey judge today. A family is suing the Aberdeen-Madawan School District. They say reciting the Pledge of Allegiance discriminates against atheist children with atheist beliefs because of the phrase "under God." School district officials say they're simply following state law that requires schools to recite the pledge every day. They say individual students do not have to take part. A Christian is the new governor of the capital of Indonesia for the first time in 50 years. Despite protests from Islamic hardliners that only a Muslim should hold that position, Basuki Tjahaja took the oath of office today. He has the reputation for outspokenness and a track record for fighting corruption and cutting red tape. Remember, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.